and welcome to another episode of Speculative Speculations. I'm Varsha. No fist bumping this time.
And I'm Chris, fist my bump. Yeah.
You've seen the movie then? Okay.
No, I just read the book. I read the book. I haven't seen the movie yet. But
Okay. Great book, though. I kind of want to reread it after the movie. Anyway, we're talking about Project Hail Mary. Sorry if you're confusing anyone. But sorry, this is a story. This is a series where we talk about speculative stories in all their forms. We're working our way through Alastair Reynolds' trilogy. I think it's called the Revelation Space Trilogy or the Inhibitor Trilogy, something like that. We're on the third book, Absolution Gap. Today we're talking about chapters 8 through 16. We read approximately 100 pages of whatever book we're on every week. For next week, it's going to be chapters 17 through 23. Is that right, Chris?
That's correct.
The short story for today is Everything Smelled of Violets. No, The Unmistakable Smell of Wood Violets by Angelica Gorodischer. And the short story for next week is going to be The Owl of Bear Island by John Bing. Both stories from the Big Book of Science Fiction, which we've been working our way through pretty much since a little bit after the beginning of this podcast. And we will for a while yet. With all that said, let's get into chapters 8 through 16. What did we think? A lot happened after all the major setup that happened in chapter 8. All our threads moved forward a little bit, although I guess we didn't go back to Quaish too much this time.
Yeah, I mean,
except for him getting rescued.
I was going to bring that up later.
Yeah.
I mean, we sort of dropped him in it and then left him alone.
Yeah. But I guess we got a sense of like why the religion started. Maybe it's built around the vanishings, it seems like.
Yeah, that's right. Very interesting. I'm enjoying this story about of the Rashmika.
Yeah,
I like her story more than pretty much anything we've read up to this point. And that's
you mean in this book or in this
series? Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
I don't know. Just something endearing about her background, origin, and what she's trying to do, and I just kind of latched onto that storyline, and I like it. I like that part of it. The rest, like you said, it did advance some stuff, and there is some key points that we'll probably talk about as we go along here. And I liked I like that too. I thought this section was very palatable compared to some of the other sections that we've read in this series so far. So it wasn't. It was. I mean, there were a couple of hiccups here and there where I got repetition that I really didn't need, but for the most part, it wasn't. It was good. It was good, and I enjoyed this section.
Yeah, the Rashmika part is the draw at the moment. There's no doubt about that. The bit that I actually didn't realize until we got into this part is that there's quite a significant gap again to Rashmika's story. It's 2757, something like that, in terms of the story. So it's like 130 years past Krish. It's 80 years past Scorpio and that kind of stuff as well. So there's quite a decent gap here to kind of get your teeth into and about how much the world's moved on. We still have this question of where Hela is, where Hildora is, where Ararat is. Are these all the same place? Are they different? Are they, because of the time scale and the fact that civilizations could grow up, etc. It's all sort of there to play for. We obviously had Curry return in the egg thing with some wild revelations, which can't say I loved, but we'll get to it, I'm sure. But in general, the Rashmika story reminds me of Star Wars: New Hope, actually.
Sure.
With the Sand People. It has that sort of feel to it when Obi-Wan is taken is taking Luke obviously to the Sand People, and then they're getting the droids and that kind of stuff. It has that feel to it. I don't know whether that's intentionally or otherwise, but there definitely is this idea that Rashmika is one got this bit of a chosen one sort of feel to her in some way, maybe just by virtue, not necessarily of her powers, but the fact that the story's going to coalesce around her. If you know what I mean, she's going to be an important thing because she has this dual mandate of like looking out for her brother, the religion, and then the thing with this whatever the thing she's studying.
Yeah,
Skittlers. I think Skittlers, but it's not Skittlers. But you know what I mean. Yeah,
the
kind of
Skittles.
yeah,
Scuttlers.
Scuttler. So it has an idea that a lot of the main focus of this story is going to force itself around her. The other stuff and the characters that we've seen beforehand seem much less important. Like Clavane is a shadow of former self. Scorpio still seems like angry and all of that kind of stuff. Curry seems to have their own mission that we talked about. And then the queer stuff, like we talked about. I wondered whether we're actually going to see Quaish ever again, or they'll play a major role, because it seems like it's just sort of set up that he's referred to in the past by the religion, if that makes sense. So he's sort of in the story in that way, but not actually as a character and kind of searching. Although I think the interesting part about that is obviously how did he get rescued? I think we know how he got rescued, what circumstances kind of happened so that he didn't die out. He hasn't worked it out, but I think we've been told enough to know that the planet, the thing disappeared, which gives you an idea of what Heldora Hela is as well. So yeah, lots of stuff to get into, and like I say, quite easy to read. I think I read it in actually 2 sentences, which compared to the first chunk I was doing maybe 20 pages at a time, I think, when I started the book again, and this one was much easier to kind of rattle through and sort of didn't want to put it down.
Really? Yeah, I still had to read it in smaller chunks than like normal, but yeah, it's some of these things that get brought up in here. There was a one because you mentioned Quaish, whatever it is, and I like the fact that he I find it interesting that he might not come back into the story, like you said, because that gives it that mythology type of aura to him and to the religion that has now come out of it. And I find it really interesting that Rashmika we're finding out about this religion through her point of view. And the one thing that really like creeped me out almost was when they inject the blood into the guy, and I guess that's some sort of control or something like that makes people want to be more religious and more apt to um, to basically the church bending people to their own means. And I was just like, wow, that's pretty creepy. That whole concept was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I hope she doesn't fall into that.
Yeah.
Or get injected that way. That would be
Especially because that's that's at least her stated mission for why she wants to find her brother, right? Because she's sure that they gave him the dean's blood against his will.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think I generally agree. I really like the thread with her interest in the archaeological aspects of this world and the separate theory that she has. I guess I'm not too much a fan of like the chosen one aspect of the story that it's taking, with the guy coming and saying, we know her, we know she can read the truth and stuff, and then like, we're gonna do this whole planting thing where we need a way to get her to where she needs to go. But maybe that'll pan out too. Like that's more of a I guess just like a bias based rejection than for any real reason. So yeah, that's fine. I think if that story goes somewhere interesting, I'll be down for it. Um, yeah, and the cache thread, that was interesting too. And I think we've been, at least for me, there were two parts that were really interesting from the first section. One was the vanishings of the planet, which we seem to have built a whole religion around, which is fantastic. I want to know more. And secondly, what about Keish made them build that religion? Is it based on the fact that he found the alien artifacts in the first place, or is it something else? And it turns out he seems to have witnessed the vanishings, or like he didn't witness it. I think he was saved by it.
Yeah.
And so he and that seems to have formed the basis for this thing. One thing that's also interesting, although it was communicated in maybe a really terrible way for me, was that Kuri has shown up on Ararat and wants them to go to Hela. So maybe this future Hela society that we're seeing is a product of this migration somehow. But as it doesn't feel like there's enough time. I suspect more that they'll just show up here while Rashmika's story is going on, perhaps. But yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff that's connecting around Hela, and I suppose we're now seeing how they all might start to converge, with Kuri saying you need to get to Hela. So there's that. The part with Kuri and her baby felt a bit spoon fed and weird, but I mean it's interesting, everything that she told us. But again, I didn't enjoy the way it was communicated. I think we'll talk about that a little bit more. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed these chapters quite a lot.
But we weren't actually told how Case survived, though. Specifically, or was it?
No,
I know
no,
he was like something was dragging him, something like that.
So his ship showed up to save him, but that should never have happened because it should have taken 4 hours to even try to reach the ship.
Right.
And then it would have taken an hour after that for the ship to show up and save him. But the ship saved him within 3 hours of when he was passing out. And like, it was not really so subtle. There was, which makes sense because we've been told that the planet has been vanishing every few hours or something at the time. So the things that he enlists for what could have saved him, one of the things he lists is, the planet should have vanished completely. He was not being serious about it, but we know because we've been told that the planet has periodically vanished. And maybe that's what sent the signal to the ship. He was sending out a distress signal to that ship, but he didn't expect it to reach the ship until a few hours later.
Because the line of sight, they needed a line of sight for the message to get through for communications. But the reason I like that quite so much is because I didn't twig about it initially when he was saved. It was only sort of after the fact as we started going through the chapters, and then we got a bit of the religion, etc. And I do hope that it never is totally spelled out, because it is one of those things. I talk about this a lot. I like when science fiction writers sort of trust their audience to be able to work shit out and not have to spell it out all the time to them.
Yeah.
In terms of it, and well, of course, there's a chance it could have been done somewhat differently, but I think it's quite clear that the way the religion has got his name and stuff, this is the first kind of like proper momentous occasion, miracle, if you want to say, that he could attest to. Like he was saved, he rose and was saved in almost a biblical sense by this event that happened. He should be dead and didn't survive. So you can see how religion would coalesce around an event like that, and especially as he walked around a new place and a settlement that was starting up, and people were trying to find a reason to exist in this place and why it's special, why it would happen. So I really liked that part of it and the way that it was sort of told, and especially because we didn't see Quish. Again, I'm really quite impressed by the fact that we haven't went back near Quish. It seems almost redundant at this stage because the other stuff's more interesting. Yet what we did go back to a little bit with it sort of switching tacks too much is we got Dan Sylvestre sort of brought back into the story in a way as well. I mean, never too far away, Hades and Dan Sylvestre, even though there was only that minor event in the second book, but it's still, it still looms large, I think, over the series. Hades and Dan Sylvestre as a character.
Yeah. I agree. And it seems that the inhibitors are afraid of that neutron star somehow. So, yeah, and we've got Aura with all this cool technology that they can use to maybe defeat the inhibitors. We'll see.
Yeah, but where's the technology coming from? Is it coming from Hades? Is it coming from the other factions, etc.? The old Amaranthan people that went away, the names, jugglers, whatever. Is like there seems to be very advanced technology getting kind of forced on the world at the moment to kind of save it, and obviously there's somebody doing that of a way, whether it's Sylvester or whether it's Mademoiselle or these kind of what seem to be the overpowers and the big thinkers within the galaxy. It's cool stuff.
It's interesting because I was wondering how Rashmika was able to, because one of her things was she can read and she has scholarly pursuit of some sort, and I was wondering where the information came from that she was able to kind of look up some of the history that we read about, like in the first book and stuff like that, because it mentions that she was able to look up stuff about Dan Sylvestre and some other stuff too, and I was like, well, how does she get able to access to that information, and how does that relate to what's going on, now? And I'm still like, I don't know how all that fits together yet, and because her civilization doesn't seem, I mean, maybe the church is advanced, but where her origins come from, like where is she getting the information from, and why doesn't the church have a bigger stranglehold on where that information is coming from and stuff like that? And I'm still trying to figure all that stuff out. It hasn't coalesced yet into how that's possible. And I don't know if it's because, this whole trading thing with the trading of artifacts and stuff like that, how much of that is regulated and stuff. And because it seems pretty regulated based upon the caravan and the whole society setup they used to have there. So I'm hoping we get some sort of answers here around all that information flow.
Yeah, I don't have an answer, but my theory is that two things. One, this was a settled planet, so they had some base level of information, and probably news of Dan Sylvestre had already traveled to these civilizations or to these planets from which people migrated and settled on Hela. And the other thing is they have trade, so maybe the Ultra ships that they trade with bring information too. But you're right, like that doesn't quite explain why the church doesn't control the distribution of said information more.
Yeah.
So, what do we want to continue with? Talking of Hela and her thread with the brother and the creepy dude who wanted to stalk her through some guy.
Yeah.
And
what bugged me about her, the way he wrote her story, was the repetition of constantly telling us that about the the police reporting or whoever reporting her missing and stuff like that. Like she told us like that. She told us that like 4 times in her head, and I was just like, okay, I don't need to know this again, And That's that's the aggravating parts of reading these books that we've been going through now for 3 books, so it's nothing new. But the the you know the whole reporting her missing versus then we find out that she's actually wanted for the thing that blew up there, um, and the which is interesting, like why all of a sudden she gets blamed and all that stuff. That's the interesting part of it, and it's interesting that being on the caravan would be out of their jurisdiction for these local
Mm-hmm.
police, and it's interesting how that all works. Um, so I'm eager to find out. I just wish I didn't have to be told it 4 times before we got to where we are now.
Yeah, it's interesting in a way because obviously she's not 100% sure that she didn't do it. She sort of refers to this kind
Yeah,
of going,
that was
you
weird.
know, yeah. So I agree with you. It keeps on getting restated, but it's a weird plot thread, if you know what I mean. It's one of these things that kind of just sort of like, oh, because I went missing, they must suspect me, and nobody else to blame it on. But we don't know that. That's a supposition on her part, and especially because she's sort of unsure as to what happened and whether she did it or not. She obviously has a blank at that stage. Again, there's more going on to her in this sort of chosen one kind of facet, especially with she's known the Grelier, this kind of person that seems to be a bit, what's going on, etc. So she's been watched for a while in some way. So, yeah, interesting to kind of dig to the bottom of actually what this will be.
What did you think of the observers that she found who were basically crucified, sort of, on the cross and were watching Haldora to see if they could catch a vanishing? Also, isn't it interesting that there were at least 3 or 4 vanishings within the very short period that we were following Quaish? And apparently, there have only been 2 vanishings since Rashmika was born. So, are they reducing in frequency?
Oh, didn't realize that. Yeah,
Mm. Interesting question, though, for sure.
yeah.
Especially because of everything that's sort of gone on. And what's causing it. I mean, we sort of think the inhibitors are doing it, but again, that may not be true.
Yeah. They think, and Rashmika's theory is that the Scuttler's disappearance has nothing to do with the inhibitors, possibly everything to do with the vanishings. So maybe whatever's causing the vanishings might be what saves them from the inhibitors.
Mm.
There you go. You just gave it all away, Vasha.
Well,
No, that's very interesting. I like that.
and there's also, I mentioned this last week, there's still this aspect of time that runs through it. I mean, the fact that, time seems to be very fluid. Even when Curry returns, the kind of time scales, etc., for everything happening for her is brought into question by Scorpio and when she's getting questioned. And then we obviously have the very different time periods that we're exploring her story through. That, again, we got to imagine that they're going to coalesce and come together in one point. So how is that going to be possible if they're like 200 years apart nearly in some ways? So also where they're getting the information and the technology from, it seems very future technology. So again, that aspect of time. So there's lots of questions to be answered right the way through the story for sure.
Yeah. I'm gonna guess that Hela is about 50 light years away from Ararat, and so we'll meet in the present time there. But so new question before we really get into talking about Kuri and her daughter. Do you think Aura is that person we saw in the prologue?
Oh.
But she's a baby now, and that person seemed to be, well, she's not even born yet.
So I was going to say, it's not even a baby.
Yeah. and that person seemed fully grown, adolescent, if not adult. So
Yeah, I mean, there's Skade still around as well. You know, there's still quite a
Yeah.
lot of characters that are floating about here. And
Yes.
again, much to the story's credit, I think it's good that we're not getting all of their perspectives, because I think that would feel very cumbersome
Yeah.
within the
Yeah.
story. We're only seeing Clavian in mention. You know, he pops up and says hi every now and again, but that he's not really a focus on
Yeah.
it. But yeah, Aura's an interesting character because again, there's this idea that she's not totally human in some ways, a bit like
Mm.
Felka, from
Yeah.
before. This idea that the Felka was sort of this kind of hybrid kind of computer,
Mm.
humanity. And the same way, like Curry's now a conjoiner, she was made a conjoiner, which again I thought
That's
was a
right.
bit of a ham-fisted reveal. When he says it must be
Yeah.
Remontoire, and then we're supposed to guess that it was Curry, even though we didn't know she was made a conjoiner. I thought that was a bit clunky, but maybe that's the
Yeah.
way they introduced that. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
I think it's also interesting that Aura has been taken to the juggler planet where, they can read minds and replicate information. So whatever Aura has, this planet could absorb and share with other people who are not directly the mother yet. So I wonder if that'll play a role at all,
Yeah.
uh, or if
That's,
it's just incidental that they're on this planet. Sorry,
that
Jared.
has that has echoes of Dune with the whole like baby being fed information,
Yeah.
before it's born and
Oh
stuff
yeah,
like that. Yeah.
that's interesting. Yes, I forget her name. Alia. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. Uh, okay, so I think about Skade, I had this issue before too in the book where we were even following her POV. But I don't like that she's just like this mindless villain to me. At least that's where she's at for me right now. I don't have any justification for why she wants to do what she wants to do. Like she's pretty single-minded about saving the conjoiners, but like they're literally being chased by the inhibitors now. Why not just work together and then get information later? Secondly, why the hell did Remontour share Aura's existence with Skade? I sure they were developing a certain level of trust and confidence, but why share this information with her? And yeah, and right now we don't even have her perspective, so she's just like this. She's kind of playing the role that uh what's his name in the first book played, the Japanese guy, or
Oh
the
yes.
person who wanted to be a
Uh,
Japanese guy. They just existed to make things, to build the tension and move. They weren't like real characters. They were just there to make things happen elsewhere in the story. And that's what Skate feels like to me right now. So I'm not a fan of the way this whole thing has been set up. I'm a big fan of Aura and what she can do, but Skade's involvement in it all and how Kuri communicated the information. Yeah, that dialogue again had echoes of that discussion between Kuri and Thorn, when
Love that.
Scorpio and Kuri were talking about, like, why can't you just trust me? Why don't you believe me? But like, unless they had an off-page conversation in which she explained everything and they still don't trust her, that makes no sense. She's just giving fragmented information. It's like, why don't you just trust me? Like, you have several hours. Why not just tell the story from the beginning? And which they did in the end with Vasco repeating that information. Why couldn't that just have been done in the beginning? I don't understand. It's anyway. So I thought that section was kind of clunky to read, but what we got out of it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the fact that Thorne didn't survive and she did, again, it felt like one of those things like this was a TV series and they couldn't get the person that
Yeah.
acted Thorne in the last series.
Back.
Yeah,
Couldn't get the
exactly.
actor back. That's what it felt. That's exactly. I was reading it going, that's like the kind of thing happens in TV series when exactly that thing happened. You know, they get to do a pilot for another show and they couldn't get them back. Oh, one made it and one didn't. And I suppose you can say that Curry has been through that process beforehand, but I mean, it didn't make an awful lot of sense to just discard that character. And Remontoire's been discarded, and Skade's still there, and it just feels clunky. I totally agree. I totally agree with that. And it just sort of felt like it was all a way to kind of make, push the plot forward without having to reinvent or kind of do a whole lot of other stuff. So Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan.
Yeah. And sure, Aura gave them information on how to make these weapons. Where did they get the material from? They said they didn't have enough material to repair the ship. It took longer because the inhibitors like used everything up in that system. So where did they get the material for the new weapons that they built?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of holes in that story. Hopefully we'll get some explanations. But
I didn't even think about that Thorn not returning thing, because I was actually kind of glad he was gone.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a part of that. Yeah. I definitely think that. Yeah, he served his usefulness. I mean, that seems to be part of the thing with Reynolds, right? And he has characters there for a purpose, and not because he's really thinking about the characters and what they add. You know, the character sense. It's about driving the plot forward.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, good, no more Thorn dialogue. I'm good with that.
well, maybe based on how the dialogue between Kuri and Scorpio and Kuri was the dialogue. It was the bad part of that dialogue.
Maybe it was her fault. Who knows? We'll see here.
Oh.
Bored himself to death. There you go.
Yeah, but it was cool that we got a little bit of Sylvester back. The other person wasn't even mentioned, or was she? Yeah, she was. She was.
Yeah, his wife, right? She was mentioned quickly, and I mean, I did like Scorpio's character in this one. I thought he was starting to show his age a little bit, and you know, he was still angry, but he was a little more tempered and a little older and wiser. And I thought he was justifiably suspicious of everything that was going on. I would have been, you know. It's just because, like you said, all of a sudden she pops out of this capsule and gives this grand, epic tale of what's, you know, what how the world's going to end next, and you know, it's like, okay, really, lady. uh, You sure there's not something else going on here, like that's gonna harm our society in some other way? You know,
Well, even the fact, is it really her? You know,
is it really her? Yeah. Um, you know, he doesn't trust conjoiners anyways. So I just thought his characterization was spot on. I thought.
Yeah. I think he's growing on me for sure. So the other question is, if they were being chased by inhibitors, why the hell did they bring them here where there were lots of people? Why not just go somewhere else to an empty planet?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I got the sense that she did it because, you know, because of Aura, but
yeah.
But I thought that stealing thing happened within the system, right? Or
did it?
Maybe I'm misremembering when that happened. Oh.
I thought oh, I forget why. Yeah, why would Skade be on this planet?
Yeah, why did I don't know, maybe they were, my guess, or if I remember correctly, what I think happened is that the whole Kuri kidnapping thing happened once they got to the system already, and then Skade just escaped onto this planet for some reason. Yeah, that's a good question. Why did she escape onto this planet? Maybe we'll get some answers in the next set of chapters.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And then wasn't there a revelation at the end of the last chapter we read on Hela, that she got a message with a clock tower seal from Lady Morwenna? Isn't that the one who was trapped?
Yeah.
Inside.
But she's part of the religion as well, in terms of they refer to her as Caisism, and then there's a Moor as well. So she's part of the
okay
religion.
But she's apparently alive and able to send messages. And
the message was from the brother. This was the the message that the other dude who put the blood in him gave him to pass on to Rashmika. And it's unclear whether he really wrote the message or if they made it up on his behalf to give to her to make her go where they want. But the message was from that cathedral.
Right, but it came through. He said it came through official channels from the Lady Morena. That's a clock tower seal, but that wasn't true. Is that the case?
It may or may not be true. We don't know if the brother actually sent it or not. At least I don't think. But it's been planted to pass on to Rashmika. That happened in that scene where
Right. Yeah, but
Really?
and at the very end, he gives it to her. He gives her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm just curious because I really want to know how the hell she got out of that space Iron Maiden that she was in, and because that is a big unknown right now. That's how that all played out.
Yep.
And how does she fit into the religion of Qwaish, and how's that all work? Yeah, that's a mystery planted.
Yeah, big mystery.
Mystery within a riddle within an enigma. Yep.
Yeah. This should be fun. Anything else that we should talk about?
Let's see. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, here was the question: was Grelia one of the people that was originally on the ship with Qwaish?
Yes.
Wasn't it that? So yes.
Oh, that's right. Didn't she meet someone with last
So
name?
that 200-year gap from Qwaish to thing.
Damn.
So it's sort of. I mean, I could be misremembering names. That's why I asked the question. Maybe I'm incorrect, but it does sort of give the idea that Qwaish could still be alive, or,
Yeah.
he's kind of long.
Apparently, he played a role in the establishment of the church, or something.
Well,
because remember, Qwaish's whole thing was that he was kind of scoping out the system for the Ultras, for some value.
Yes.
So he would have had to report back.
Right, and he was doing that to save.
To Morwenna,
yeah,
and his own life, to be fair. So.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't make that connection. So Grelia was mentioned here, but he wasn't in the scene, right? He was just mentioned as someone important in the church. I'm trying to remember who mentioned him.
I don't remember who mentioned him. Yeah, was it one of the? Was it the guy who was given the needles?
Probably. Yeah, I think so.
We're getting into bits I don't remember. I barely remembered his name, I have to say. But
Crozet, that's the guy's name. The guy is who ran
Chapter
the
12. Yeah, so the guy who showed up was Grelia.
Oh, that was Grelia.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
That was Grelia. Yeah, the person that showed up looking or with the knowledge of Rashmika. Yeah.
Yeah. So he could be a descendant or he could be that same person.
It could be the same person. I think it's likely to be the same person, given what we know about Ultras.
Oh, and the guy like rips the arm off the little insect creature there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
I'm like, you bastard.
Yeah. Why did he do that?
Peppermint.
So
Peppermint. Ah, poor Peppermint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grelia needs to die.
Well, all Ultras aren't good people. That's sort of what Volyova's
Right.
been the only one that was anyway half decent.
That's right.
Yeah. And even she was quite difficult to learn to like. Yeah.
That's funny.
So what else?
All right.
And on that note, Peppermint lost his foot.
Yeah.
Or limb. And talk about the space astronaut. What other kinds of astronaut are there? But
I like one of those sea astronauts. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Oh man, what is the story called again? Everything smelled of wood violets. Nope. The unmistakable smell of
The
wood
smell of
violet.
wood violets.
Yeah,
Yes.
there we go.
Yes. Take it away, Chris.
Oh, you're far too kind. I mean, this story, a scene was written in 1985, so it basically tells the story of Ronald Reagan kind of helping bring the whole world back together. Because there's an actor, John James Franklin, whatever, is the guy that is bringing kind of the 79 independent states back together. It sort of tells the story of a future Earth that is kind of trying to find itself again. I mean, I
Maybe
didn't get a great deal out of it.
this was probably the most confusing one I've read in this book in a long time. I was like, what is going on? What's the point? It mentions archaeology, ashes and time, stuff of legend, making a new civilization, and all that. And to me, I don't know about you guys, but it felt like it was future people playing around with past politics in a simulation of some sort and trying to make sense of it. And I couldn't make sense of it. I was just like, so does this have any stakes? Does this mean anything? Or is it just somebody playing around with this stuff and then all of a sudden at the end, okay, I'm getting married, and then that was it. And I'm like, what happened?
Yeah, it didn't seem to be. It didn't seem to have an overarching point to it. It seemed like a hodgepodge of some sort of observances of a future society, or a society that was sort of fragmented and trying to put itself back together. The idea that they were all independent states, everybody sort of broke off and did their own thing, and then had to come back together and the coalesce around this populist figure. I mean, it's not that ridiculous a concept. But it, like I said, didn't seem to have a takeaway. It didn't seem to have something that was pushing towards and kind of delivering to you as the reader. And maybe, and I'm almost certain there probably was one there, but I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what to make of it either. I think what I'm most curious about is the significance of violets and why that was the chosen smell at the edge of the universe. I wonder if it has some cultural significance in Argentina that I'm not getting.
Yeah. I don't know.
Mm.
I mean, I did like that concept of going to the end of the universe, like
Mhm.
the and everything grows weaker as you reach the edge, and so like things start becoming imperceptible, and the changes and stuff like that, and softer and blurred. And I was like, oh, that's a pretty
That's cool.
fascinating
Yeah.
concept, But how did it relate to what these, like, the Tsarina talking about her country and how it related to that? I have no idea. It just didn't. It didn't relate. And this story, because I remember back in the 80s, I was there, and this story reminds me of the type of story that would be in something like Asimov's science fiction magazine or something like that,
Yeah.
or one of those magazines that was coming out, and it was the type of story that turned me off from getting a subscription to one of those magazines, because I was like, I don't want to get something like this in the mail and feel like I gotta read it. You know, basically that's what it was. And because I would always check out those magazines and say, all right, I'm gonna check the fantasy science fiction magazine, and then you would read something like this and you'd be like, what?
Yeah.
And it would really turn me off from getting a subscription to something like that. But so it was strange. And it's too bad, because I don't think the prose is bad or anything like that.
No.
It's fine. It's really, she's a good writer, but the point.
That's a really good point, Jared, about my experience of reading sci-fi in the 80s as well. You know, what I was sort of investigating, kind of reading fantasy and that kind of stuff, and it seemed like a natural thing to do at that stage, but it wasn't digestible in the way that fantasy was, if you know what I mean. They sort of were not that concerned with overarching narrative and that kind of stuff. It was more kind of just stuff. Like, it's sort of how I feel about Orbital a little bit, even though Orbital had more of a point. Samantha Harvey, again, that was sort of that kind of bird's eye view of this stuff that we can see and sort of draw some inferences from it. I think Orbital did that better than this.
Yeah,
but I think they're sort of in the same sphere for me in terms of like missing an overall narrative to kind of bring it together, or good character work, or something to kind of invest yourself in and kind of keep you turning the page.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think I don't have much to add to that.
Well, what did you think of this line, Vasha? The women are capricious creatures, just like little boys. As soon as they get what they want something else.
What? How did I miss that? I don't.
Oh yeah, it's right in there.
I don't. Well, maybe it's because I was capricious and so I didn't read that line.
I was like, where did that come from?
Why was that necessary? Okay.
Yeah. And then the universe comes to the end, and then there's nothing. And then the last paragraph, she marries a good man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what?
Given that it's the end of the world and the edge of the universe, it could have been Cities in Flight. It could have been Amalfi that she married. It could have been, there we go. It's all full circle, you know.
Chris, that was absolutely brilliant. I got it. Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
I am.
I'm making a face because you made me think of Amalfi when I didn't want to.
Mr. Amalfi.
I am in awe of that.
It's just when you said a good man, it just seemed to make all sort of sense. No.
Okay. Right.
I mean, he was probably the one that told everybody he was a good man. That being Amalfi, that was
he definitely did. Yeah.
All right. So, on that note, we'll wrap up. We'll be back next week with chapters 17 through 23. And the next story, which is something about an owl, The Owl of Bear Island by John Bing. And thank you for listening. We'll see you soon. Bye.